Abby is going to be reading Pandemic X Virus X Listener up in here. So we are in Consequences equaling chapter 11, but we're doing a recap, you know, because period. Okay, but anyways, getting straight into the recap. So as you guys remember, you know, before Rocky was, you know, RIP'd, Roxy went on a date with Cody, and as you know, Cody kind of only used her as a experiment, pretty much, to one, make us jealous, and to also get a new experiment, basically a new puppet, pretty much. He ended up drugging her and not killing her, but drugging her to the point where she passed out. But yeah, pretty much. At first, he gave a whole ass tour around his house. Don't know why, but I guess it's a decoy. He basically poisoned her tea or whatever the hell they were drinking, and, you know, ended up making her pass out, drugged her. Period. Next time, so the next part where it includes us, remember Jossie is in a very bad relationship right now. Let's put it that way. And we're currently with her in the apartment, like not now, but this is past. And we were trying to figure out how to get her and yourself out of there without getting anyone to notice. And we took that opportunity when her ugly ass, stupid ass, dumb ass boyfriend went into the bathroom, and they took their chance and ran out of there. And they ran all the way as far as they could, all the way to an alleyway. They stopped for a little bit, chit-chatted a little bit, us trying to make Jossie feel better. All of a sudden, we hear Jocelyn out of the air, and then we're like, oh shit, we fucked. And then at the same time, we're like, we're not gonna let him get to her. She deserves, excuse me, I accidentally hit my microphone. She deserves better. But yeah, we kind of got off on the cliffhanger, so thank goodness we're doing it now. Alright, y'all. For some warnings. So first thing, there will be mention of death, violence, and a lot of blood and gore. There will be a lot of mentions of that. There will also be mentions of abuse and berating women. And then there will also be mentions of, if you're in an orphanage and you're really sensitive about that topic, this also mentions it. And it also mentions about people using people, and people being assholes. There's also that. And then about abusive relationships. Yeah, I just want to let y'all know. I don't want to keep y'all, because there's like a lot of warnings on here. It's insane, but they're going to be all over the screen. But if you guys are uncomfortable with that, please do not watch this video. It's going to be very tense in the beginning of the chapter. Very intense. So be prepared. Yes, we are in Consequences equals chapter 11. So if I mess up on any other things, I will correct myself during editing. I promise. Anyways, we're in chapter 11. The Consequences. Warnings are violence and derogatory language towards women. So basically insecure men. There's sadly some people like that in the everyday world, but they, you know what, they can suck my fat. Okay, anyways, you held your ground as Josh's intimidating and towering boyfriend loomed over the two of you, somehow seeming to appear 10 feet tall instead of 6 due to the heat of the moment. You had no choice but to back yourself down the alleyway, and you were currently standing at the entrance of it. It was your only chance at this point, as the opposite end of the alleyway only led to another street. It was the only viable escape route that you saw. Yet, that also made it quite dangerous for you, for it significantly lessened the chance of potential witnesses to the crime that you knew was just about to transpire. Keep moving backwards, Jossie. You murmured as you continued to back up and push her further into the darkened alleyway. Jossie clung to the material of her shirt with fists clenched so tightly you could feel them shaking and trembling against your skin. You supposed that you were shaking just as much as Jossie, but you felt that you held the higher advantage. Damien had been beating up on her for only God knows how long, and you imagined that if he held any type of humanity left, he would still feel a bit apprehensive when it came to taking a swing at you. Someone new, or for up until only a few mere hours ago, completely uninvolved. However, you also knew that this did not guarantee your safety. If Damien really wanted to, he would hit you. Your eyes scanned the alleyway for a potential weapon. You spotted something. It was too far away, though. You would have to inch yourself towards it. If push came to shove, you had to do what you had to do. Kill him. Cheating on me with another whore, huh, Jocelyn? Damien bellowed as he continued forward. His voice boomed and echoed as it bounced across the walls of the buildings that made up the sides of the alleyway. He never stopped moving forward, and his speed did not increase, nor did it decrease. It stayed the same and unchanging, and for some reason, that was almost as intimidating as him charging you. You felt your breath become lodged in your throat, and your heart assumed a quickened, slightly irregular beat. You could hear its thumps deep in the pits of your ears. The beating of a war drum. Dudum, dudum, dudum. I'm done with you, Damien, Josie yelled at him from behind you. Her voice was strong, low, and commanding, almost as if your presence gave her courage. She perfectly masked her fear and shoved away her anxiety. Letting go of your shirt, which was still bunched up in her fist, she attempted to step aside so she was not only standing next to you, but slightly in front of you, almost as if to say she wouldn't allow you to become hurt on her behalf. I will never let you hurt me again. Done with me? Damien repeated, laughing humorlessly at the mere thought. As he advanced forward, a streak of moonlight shone across his face, and you thought that he looked hideous. There was a crazed gleam in his eye, and the shadows played across his face in such a way that he appeared to be more of a monster and less of a man. Some disturbing, unknown dweller in the netherworld, a demon whose sole purpose was to hurt, torture, and destroy. I've already told you, haven't I, babe? You can't just be done with me. You have nowhere else to go, no one to turn to. You've lost everything. She has not, you cut in. She will never be alone. You want to bet, you little cunt? Damien sneered. Her parents and sisters ditched her. They all went back to Egypt. She cut off contact with her friends. She has no job. She's saddled in student loans to pay for her pathetic degree in journalism. And she depends on me to pay the bills, to feed her, to pay for her car, her phone, her health insurance. If she didn't have me, do you know where she'd be? On the streets, or in a crack house, or stripping her clothes for cash. That's where she'd be, because it's all she's worth without me. You're disgusting, you see. An absolute waste of humanity. You don't deserve Josie. You deserve nothing but the absolute worth. If that's your opinion of women, then fuck you. Fuck you to hell and fucking rot. Breaking away from Josie, who had a hold on your wrist, you charged to your left, rushing towards a small pile of abandoned construction materials and tools, which had been carelessly yet absolutely conveniently left laid by the construction workers who had been working there the previous afternoon. Snatching a mallet, you ignored your surprise at how heavy it felt in your hands and held it in front of you threateningly. Josie, back up, you ordered, motioning for her to get lost. You kept yourself firmly plated on the pile of other tools, refusing to let Damien get past you and toward the tools in an attempt to find a weapon of his own. No, Josie refused, inching towards your side. This is my fight too. Well then find something quickly, you pressed, for you noticed Damien beginning to pick up speed as he recognized your words as a signal of a war cry. Josie knelt down next to you and began to rummage through the pile, obviously in search for something suitable and destructive. Attack us, and I will bring this down on you, you threatened, but Damien did not retreat. Approaching you with heavy, quickened steps, Damien reached an arm back, his hand tightly balled up in a fist, and sledged Josie in the side of the head. You heard the sickening sound of knuckles coming into heavy contact with the skull, and you let out an enraged cry. With a bit of difficulty, you swung your mallet far behind you before letting momentum do its dirty work as you brought it forward again, catching Damien harshly in the wrist. You struck him as hard as you could, and the sound of bones cracking and shattering upon impact was disturbing, yet exhilarating at the same time. Staggering backwards, the tiniest bit due to the force of your swing, you brought your mallet back again and hit him in the stomach this time, causing him to let out a grunt of pain and double over at what would most likely be in the nastiest stomach ache of his life. You couldn't help but hope, strangely enough, that he was bleeding somewhere in there, deep inside his body. The sadistic nature of your thoughts thoroughly surprised you. How unlike you. Damien coughed and sputtered, a little bit of saliva trailing out of his mouth and falling to the ground at his feet. It took him a moment to gather his bearings and stand back upright, but unfortunately, it was not enough time for you and Jossie to get away. Additionally, you were afraid that he would locate a tool of his own and chase you down with it. It would seem that your only option at this point was to stand your ground. You had tried running away, and obviously that didn't work. This guy didn't know when to quit. Jossie stood up as well. Although it was apparent that she was still a bit dazed due to the hit she had taken to the head, you hoped that she didn't have a concussion. Damien noticed this as well, and seeing that Jossie was a bit weakened, while you had yet to suffer any type of injury, turned towards you. You swung your mallet clumsily but still threateningly in your hands. Your legs sank into what you hoped, beyond hope, was an appropriate fighting stance. Lunging towards you, Damien wrapped his strong, huge arms around your body, constricting your movement in what you assumed to feel even worse than the largest and strongest python on the planet. Slamming you against the wall of the alleyway, he let go, only to allow both of his large arms to wrap around your neck, squeezing around you with the full intent of crushing your windpipe. You could just feel the bruises coming in, and your legs kicked feebly in his direction, and you swung your mallet all over that you were worth. Yet he still stood just out of reach. Perhaps you should throw it at him, but that would just give him the opportunity to pick it up and bring it down on your head. You sputtered and gasped for air. You couldn't breathe. You wanted to smash your mallet down upon his fingers, but that would likely hurt you as well. His hands only continued to squeeze tighter around your throat, and your vision grew blurry. Get off her! Through your madness, Jossie had located a hammer of her own. Not as heavy looking as your mallet, but still sturdy and destructive. Swinging her hammer behind her in a downwards motion, she launched it upwards, smashing it upon the back of his neck and forcing him to let go of you. You dropped to your knees in a heap on the ground, coughing and hacking as you attempted to regain your breath. Climbing once again to your feet, you let out another infuriated noise. You had to end this, and you had to end it now. Wasting no time and not even giving yourself the chance to think twice, you jumped on top of him, pinning him to the ground. You rose your mallet high above your head before bringing it back down to his face. 1 time, 2 times, 3. You eventually lost count at the amount of times you struck him, pummeling him with every ounce of strength you had. You saw nothing but red as you mercilessly beat him. Blood flew into the air as you broke his nose, crushed his jaw, and cracked open his skull. The movement in Damien's limbs slowly began to die, and his struggles became non-existent as you hammered away on him. You could barely hear Jossie screaming at you, urging you to stop. Things had gone far enough that you were going to kill him. Ryan! For some reason, Jossie's final utterance of your name slightly brought you back to reality. Halting your movements with your mallet raised high in the air, you slowly turned your head towards Jossie and stared wide-eyed at her before turning your gaze to Damien's face, or at least what was left of it. He was completely unrecognizable, a bloodied, mangled mess of what he used to be. Ryan, Jossie muttered again, hooking her arms around your under your armpits and gently pulling you off of him. Stop. Letting out a shaky sigh, you accepted Jossie's help as she tugged at your arm and pulled you to your feet. You glanced down at Damien's motionless body, attempting to process what you had just done. Sharing a concerned look with Jossie, you managed to mumble through your pained and weakened state. So, what now? Jossie opened her mouth to answer, yet before she had the chance to even utter a word, the sound of footsteps approaching the alleyway hit your ears. You and Jossie exchanged horrified glances. Those footsteps were close. There was no way you would be able to make it out undetected. Just as you were about surveying your available hiding options, even though there weren't really any visible places to begin with, a familiar voice interrupted you. YN? Oh, dear God. Cody, you gasped. Why, Cody? Why do you have such a horrid timing? What happened to you? He asked in a slightly panicked voice, rushing towards you with quickened steps, seemingly paying no heed to the stench of blood that was slowly but surely beginning to waft through the area, his eyes brightly flittering from the motionless male laying on the floor, to Joshy's figure clutching her head, to you, absolutely coated with blood, and with nasty bruises beginning to form on your neck. It didn't take him long to put the unsaid pieces of the story together. You were attacked? You gonna snitch? Joshy challenged, and Cody sent her an annoyed look. You're joking, right? He retorted, here. He shook off his oversized gray and white plaid jacket and held it out for you, allowing you to slip your arms through the holes of the jacket before gently spinning you back around and doing up the buttons. Reaching behind you, he grabbed the folds of the hood and pulled it over your head, concealing your hair and all the sticky blood that was matted in it. Reaching into his backpack next, he pulled out a package of wipes, most likely something that he used for normally wiping down surfaces, and softly brought one to your face. His green eyes softened as he wiped away all the remaining remnants of blood on your skin, sparing a glance towards Joshy, who wasn't nearly as covered with blood as you were. He proceeded to pull another wipe out of his pack and pass it to her as well, allowing her to clean herself off. What did you touch? He asked you sweetly, as he allowed his hand to rest slightly upon your now clean face, his thumb trailing across your skin in the most comforting way. The mallet. You said quietly, gesturing toward the bloody tool that lay discarded at your feet. Okay, he acknowledged. Don't touch anything else here. Reaching into his bag again, he pulled out a pair of medical gloves over his hands before picking up the mallet and wiping that down with a new wipe. Gathering up all the wipes that were used, he stuffed them into an empty pocket of his bag. It's a good thing that you're wearing black jeans. He pointed out, you can change clothes at my house. Come with me, both of you. I'll treat your injuries. Me, like, while editing the story, and I just realized, man came awfully prepared. Not, you know what? I'm thinking about it. You know what? I'm thinking about it because he came awfully prepared. He brought gloves, wipes to get rid of evidence, you know, right by the alleyway at the certain run of my right time. I can't tell if it's just, I don't think it's a coincidence. It can't be a coincidence. It can't be a coincidence. Because how can you just appear right after, you know, just like, oh my darling, it's okay. You know, like, and then just immediately just, you know, quickly pieces together, you know what I'm saying? And then just has everything ready. Like, I get it, he's a killer, but at the same time, you know what I'm saying? He prepares for it. So, what if, y'all? What if? Think about it, y'all. Think about it. But before leaving that cursed alleyway, Cody stopped in front of you once more, allowing both hands to rest against your cheeks this time. He leaned forward, obviously unbothered by the odor of blood that continued to emit from the still unclean parts of your body, such as your hair and clothing. You wondered if Cody would care about the fact that the inside of his jacket was quickly becoming spattered with Damien's blood. As he proceeded to lean in, your heart rate increased. This time, pleasantly. Cody's long fingers curled against the base of your head as he cutely pressed his lips to the tip of your nose. I'll take care of you, YN. You need me. Oh my god! I'm so surprised they kept it together. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of you guys. Because that was a really tough scene. And if you made it through that with me, I'm proud of you guys. Just as much as I'm proud of me. That was, whew. Damn. Hell yeah. I told you guys we would beat his ass. Fuck yeah. Oh my goodness. We gotta be like YN. We gotta have a friend that will get rid of evidence. Because I'm guaranteeing y'all, like, nowadays, a lot of people know how to get rid of bodies. A lot. Even I know some things. But I ain't gonna tell y'all for, like, obvious reasons. But y'all can look it up. You know, Google's for free, you know. TikTok's free. So, yeah. Alright, y'all. So, we is in chapter 12, Conflicts. Cody led you back to his house with Joshy trailing nervously behind you. Now that the initial shock of the situation had begun to wear off, and the cruel reality of everything began to set in, it was obvious that Joshy was beginning to feel jumpy and skittish about what just transpired. Her eyes continuously darted from side to side as she scanned each side of the street and every sidewalk. She almost jumped a mile out of her skin when the police car drove by, simply carrying out its normal patrol duties. Don't look so guilty. Cody scolded her under his breath. There aren't even any sirens. Reaching a long, thin arm out, completely barren since he had given up his jacket to you, and now stood in the cool night air in nothing but a black sleeveless shirt, Cody proceeded to drape his arm around your waist and drew you closer to him. We're almost there, he muttered into your ear, ignoring the dirty looks that Jossie was sending him, most likely in response to his lack of sensitivity and empathy regarding the entire issue. Your eyes merely settled into your shoes as you continued to put one foot in front of the other, grimacing at the splashes of blood that decorated them. Maybe you would be more like Jossie and freaking out just a bit more if Cody wasn't with you. You weren't sure why, but you felt comforted by his presence. It was probably a bit weird that you were not a little bit more alarmed that Cody seemed collected and just in control of the entire situation. He knew exactly what to do, how to handle things, and how to keep you calm. Instead of shoving his arm off of you, as you probably initially would have done, as jealousy of him going on a date with Roxy still remained, you instead leaned into him, accepting his warmth and comfort. Glancing behind you in an effort to see how Jossie was holding up, you saw her panic-stricken eyes slowly morph into a gleam of confusion as she observed the buildings that surrounded you changing from apartment buildings and modest homes to a bit more luxurious. Where are you taking me? She finally spoke up. If Cody had betrayed a hint of irritation in the sigh he let out, it was very tiny. To my home, he answered begrudgingly. You live in one of these huge houses? Jossie asked blankly, her question coming more out of a statement in her disbelief. Will there be anyone else there to witness us? Friends, roommates, family members? Do you think I'm an idiot? Cody shot back, clearly growing frustrated at the inquiries. I live alone. Then how can you afford such a place? Jossie continued her assault of questions and suspicions. I know for a fact that these houses easily start at $300,000. Who in their right mind who would extend you, a college student with no job, the funds to make such a purchase? For your information, I've acquired an inheritance, Cody smoothly retorted, obviously growing more irritated at Jossie's rather nosy yet undeniably valid questions. I have a part-time job, by the way. I'm not jobless. Where do you work? You asked, turning curious eyes onto Cody and attempting to do just about anything to keep your mind off of things, as well as shut down any argument that was starting to brew between Cody and Jossie. Oh, I'm a barista at Cool Beans Tea Room. Cody grinned, turning his gaze up on to you and once again ignoring Jossie. So if you want one Machado, just let me know. I'll bring you one after my shift one day. At the mention of a Machado, your expression soared just a little as your mind traveled back to Roxy. Just a little as your mind traveled back to Roxy. Now that you thought about it, wasn't he supposed to be with her? What was he doing, walking around the streets by himself at 10:30, going on 11 at night? See, y'all seeing this, right? Y'all seeing this shit? Excuse me. Most of the stores were closed by the point. Why did he just so happen to be passing by just as you had finished committing an unspeakable act? An act that you should have been feeling more guilty, nervous, and upset about. But for some reason, you just weren't. In fact, you felt rather nonchalant about it, and you were growing more concerned at the blood being matted in your hair and the sticky, uncomfortable feeling that it brought on more than anything else. Why didn't you care? Because he was a bitch and he deserved it. That's why. No remorse for bitches like him. No remorse. Of course, I don't like getting my hands dirty, but you got your hands dirty and, you got the job done. Jossie obviously did. Jossie was feeling the full effects of everything that had transpired, from nervous to obvious guilt to a fear of being caught to even suspicion or disbelief about Cody and his final intentions. Why was it that Jossie was the only one in your little group that was experiencing normal reactions? Oh, we're here, Cody called out, finally turning down a driveway to a 2-story brick house with an unkept yard. For some reason, you weren't really surprised at the lack of care that went into Cody's lawn maintenance. In fact, it didn't really even bother you. If only the inside of his house was clean. then you were good. Jossie stopped hesitantly at the end of the driveway. As Cody finally released his hold on your waist, did I say Cody? Yeah, okay. And continued forward alone, shaking his backpack off and opening it up before rummaging around a bit in search of his house keys. YN? Jossie murmured, grabbing onto your wrist and holding you back as you made to follow Cody. Are you sure about him? He's helping us, isn't he? You asked in a whisper that matched Jossie's quietness, blinking at her curiously. You don't trust him? I don't know, she muttered shakily, hand lightly glossing down yours before grabbing a hold of it and intertwining your fingers, pulling you just a bit closer to her as she spoke. I know he's helping us out, and he said he'd treat our injuries. I know he seems friendly and all, but there's just something. I don't know what it is, but I feel like something's about him is just off. Jossie, you muttered, reaching up a hand and trailing your fingers across her cheek. Your heart beat in absolute tension and confusion at your conflicted feelings for your desire for both Cody and Jossie, and you kind of hated yourself for it. In the past, you found yourself in more than one rather unorthodox situation concerning romantic partners, and you had made it a point to take as much time as you needed to go out and find yourself and what you really wanted in a relationship before settling down and committing to anyone. But never had you felt such romantic feelings for two people at the same time. You wondered how things would have evolved with Jossie if you never met with Cody, and vice versa. Of course, you didn't want to lead anyone on, and you didn't want to hurt either of them, but it certainly was a weird situation all around. Jossie had just exited an extremely abusive relationship, and for the time being, you were the only one that she had to turn to. Cody, on the other hand, didn't get along with a lot of people, and he was just beginning to show more deeper feelings for you. So, what was that whole Roxy situation then? Was he just trying to make you jealous? If so, it most definitely worked, even if you had tried your best to hide it. Jossie, you continue to speak, and Jossie leaned her head slightly into your touch. Where else do we have to go right now? We can't just go walking through my dorm building like this. You gestured to your blood-soaked clothing. Even if some of it was currently concealed by Cody's jacket, there are cameras everywhere in those buildings. Jossie shuddered before letting go of your hand and covering her eyes, attempting to keep the tears of fear from falling. I'm so scared, she whispered, her voice shaking with sobs and tears as she tried, yet failed to keep herself together. I killed him, Maya. What if someone finds out? They're going to find me. I'm going to get in trouble, and it'll even be worse if I don't report it. I'm going to be in so much trouble. Wrapping your arms around her waist, you pulled her close. Jossie immediately snuggled her head into the crook of your neck as she shook into your arms. I don't have the answers, Jossie, you quietly stated. We just might have to take things one step at a time. Let's just go and get cleaned up for now, and then rest. We'll just have to figure things out as we go. Times, kid. After entering Cody's house and being sure to remove your shoes upon his request, which you totally would have done anyway, considering the fact that they were currently splattered with blood, Cody ushered you upstairs to his upstairs master bedroom for a shower, while he directed Jossie to the other bathroom that had a shower, also located on the second floor. He also was kind enough to present you with a pair of black sweatpants and an oversized, long-sleeved red shirt to change into. You would have asked him why he didn't have any cooler clothing, like shorts and t-shirts, considering the fact that it was still late summer and the weather was rather warm. In fact, now that you thought about it, you never see him wearing short-sleeved shirts or shorts. Tonight was the first night that you had seen him wearing an article of clothing that didn't cover his arms, and that was because he lent you his jacket. Yet, almost upon entering his house, he had reached into a coat closet that was attached to the foyer and grabbed an olive green military jacket and pulled it on, once again covering up his skin. After your shower and changing into the clothing that Cody had provided you with, you returned to the kitchen in search of Cody. Jossie, it would seem, was still caught up in the bathroom. You hoped that she was okay, although you imagined her to be quite upset and possibly even having a bit of a breakdown, now that she was alone. As much as you wanted to comfort her, you also knew when to back off and let people to their own devices. Upon entering the kitchen, you did indeed find Cody there. He was leaning against one of his remarkably clean kitchen counters, a glass of iced water sitting next to him. He grinned at you as you entered and gestured for you to join him. You leaned against the counter next to him, although it was a bit difficult to meet his eyes, for you still had a question for him that kept floating at the top of your brain, even though you did try rather hard to not let your curiosity show. So, you began, and Cody's expression transformed into one of attentive curiosity as you began to speak. How was your pizza date with Roxy? Didn't happen, Cody confirmed, taking a sip of his iced water before extending his arm out and offering you some. Want some? Sure. You accepted, taking the cup from his hands. His fingers brushed against yours as you did so, and you felt your stomach drop in pleasant infatuation. But how come? Did she ditch you? You smiled lightly at your half-joke before taking a sip of water. You're funny. Cody snickered, scooting a bit closer to you that he was standing so close. The material of his green jacket just barely brushed against the sleeve of your shirt. I called it off, if you must know. It just didn't feel right. I have someone else I want. His luring eyes bore bluntly into yours, the faded olive green of his jacket managing to make the emerald green of his eyes appear all the more brighter, even in the dim light that the kitchen provided. I just don't know if she wants me back. He placed one hand on your cheek next, and his other wrapped around the base of your neck, tilting your gaze toward the direction of his eyes and making it rather difficult for you to tear away your gaze, even if you wanted to. I don't know, Cody, you muttered, trying to resist the urge to pull him even closer to you. I think I do, but... What's that mean? Cody laughed, letting go of you and booping you on the nose as he pulled away. Anyway, Cody grinned, entangling your fingers with his as he began to lead you towards the second floor again. It's getting late, and you must be tired, right? It wasn't even until Cody mentioned this that you finally began to feel sleepy, almost as if it was a switch that was flipped on. The mere mention of those words, in combination with his voice, made you feel like you wanted to sleep. It was certainly a peculiar feeling instead. You couldn't help the yawn that escaped, causing Cody to giggle. Thought so. Where am I going to sleep? You asked hesitantly, dreading his answer, yet at the same time hoping that he would say, I have the world's most comfortable bed, he announced. Just wait until you see it. It's super springy and warm. Oh, and I've brought your friend so that she can sleep and have my spare bedroom. So don't worry about her. She asked me not to bother her, so she probably wants to be left alone. As you and Cody walked down the hallway of his second floor, he gestured towards another room that you assumed to be his spare bedroom. The door was closed and the lights were off. The noise of an electric fan could be heard, indicating that it was currently in use, and Jossie was at least attempting to get some sleep. You nervously entered Cody's bedroom as he flipped the light on and pulled you inside. The room was, like the rest of the house, meticulously clean and spotless. There was no decorations in the room, with the walls being a plain white. There was essential furniture in the room, such as a dresser, nightstands, and a queen-sized bed with a light blue blanket covering it. A TV hung on the wall opposite of the bed. Yet, your nervousness concerning the entire situation ceased to exist as you took note of the tiny creature that currently laid curled up on top of Cody's bed. Oh! You gasped, letting go of Cody's hand and making a beeline for the tiny kitten that lay asleep on the bed. You stopped just before the baby cat, wanting nothing more than to pet it, yet at the same time not wanting to startle it or to wake it from its slumber. I didn't know you had a cat. I forgot to mention. Cody laughed, approaching your side lightly holding his hand out in front of the kitten, who was starting to stir due to the noise in the room. This is Coco. He was a stray, but I rescued him. The kitten, noticing Cody's outstretched hand, let out the most adorable little mew before rubbing his head against Cody's hand, instantly beginning to purr at the intention. Reaching out his arms, Cody lifted up the kitten with extreme gentleness and lightly coddled the kitten, holding him cutely against his chest and grinning sweetly. It gets slowly in a big house like this, you know. Coco keeps me company, and he catches mice for me. He's such a good kitty." "That's absolutely adorable." You grin softly, observing Cody cuddling his cat with the most content and peaceful smile on his face. "But why'd you name him Coco?" you ask in a genuine curiosity. After all, this kitten was a gray and with a white belly and black stripes, and had beautiful, crystal clear blue eyes. Nothing about this animal even remotely resembled chocolate. "Oh, that's because he always wants to eat chocolate whenever I have it," Cody laughed. "Of course, I never give him any, because chocolate isn't good for cats, but he still begs for it all the time." Leaping from Cody's arms and landing perfectly on his feet, Coco let out another tiny mew before rubbing up against the back of Cody's legs. Turning back around, the kitten exited the room, his tail swishing this way and that, as he disappeared from view. Now that Coco, your distraction, was gone, you were now faced with the fact that you were going to climb into bed with Cody. As much as it made your heart flutter, it was still going to be very awkward. "I'll take the couch if you're feeling nervous," Cody offered, instantly picking up on your hesitation. "I'm not about to chase you out of your own bed," you denied. "Well, I offered it to you," Cody argued childishly. Rolling your eyes, you attempted to keep your blush under control as you finally got a move on and clambered into bed. You were so focused on keeping your gaze away from Cody that you never even had the chance to notice his triumphant grin. "Oh my god! Ooh! Oh my god, this is so cute! Oh my gosh, I can't! It's too cute! Oh my goodness, it's too cute! It's too cute! Oh my goodness, I must have my limits. Oh my goodness, it's so cute!" Okay, y'all, it's in her reading one more chapter, doesn't hurt. And y'all see me regretting this later. But it doesn't matter because I haven't read this story in 2 weeks. Technically more, but whatever. Anyways, chapter 13, Recollections. Reaching around his back and tying up the long navy blue apron that it had rested comfortably around his torso, Cody sighed as he took a quick glance at his reflection in the mirror. He was sure that his boss would complain about the ruffled appearance of his white collared shirt and black pants underneath his apron. That prick was always getting on him about his shirt being untucked or his collar being wrinkled. Yet he supposed that baggers can't be choosers. He was paid rather well for a 16-year-old working as a barista at a mediocre cafe that tried its best to be hipster but turned out even more basic than the Starbucks down the street. Not that he really cared. He could have all the lattes that he wanted while on the clock, and for that he was thankful. After all, he was operating on a lot less sleep than he would have liked recently. It wasn't like he was busy. He guessed that he was supposed to be going to school, and somehow he made it to his junior year of high school. He skipped a lot more than not, though. It was just so pointless. All the teachers did was drone on and on about things that he already knew, or things that he didn't care about. Long since had time passed when he was in elementary school and was excited to learn, always reading ahead during class or unable to contain himself when the teacher posed a question to the class. Nowadays, when he did attend school, he preferred to be a nobody. After all, society had long since taught him that no one cared about what he thought. No one gave a shit about what he had to say. And when he did open his mouth to speak, he would just be ridiculed. No one fucking cared. So why bother speaking? One day, when he was 10, a social worker came to his shithole apartment. The apartment that he had shared with his worthless mother and that son of a bitch Roger. When she had arrived, he had a blackened eye and a chipped tooth. Over the past year or so, he had developed a bit of an attitude and even had gotten in a few fights at school. Just starting to get over everyone else's bullshit. Yes, this, of course, not only labeled him as a nuisance to the teachers, but now a problem child, which of course meant increased call homes. Why am I saying this wrong? meant increased calls home, and the amount of times that Cody had become Roger's punching bag had not only increased. While Cody had a difficult time remembering what exactly the social worker looked like, He vividly remembered the kind of way that she had touched his shoulder, and how she softly explained to him that she was going to take him somewhere safe, and he remembered that he didn't believe her. Well, he supposed that she didn't take him anywhere dangerous, but was it a fun place? No. Was it kind-hearted, caring, and nurturing? Not at all. He was taken to an orphanage, not too far from where he had grown up, but in a different school district. This at least meant that he had a chance to build a new reputation with his teachers and their students. Maybe he could even make a friend, but the same situation presented itself whenever he went. The other kids at the orphanage, for some reason that he could never quite work out, wanted nothing to do with him. He was too immature for the older kids, who only seemed interested in fucking each other or smoking weed. The kids his age had trouble relating him too, and could never quite seem to follow his train of thought, and so they mostly ignored him and branded him as the weirdo. Younger kids were never there for long, as well as anyone who ever seemed to want to do was adopt cute and adorable children anyway, not moody adolescents and teenagers, damaged goods, as he came to see himself. During that time in the orphanage, finally coming to the realization that no one wanted to do anything with him, he became mute. He channeled his impulsivity and hyperactivity in other ways, such as fidgeting, shaking his legs, or drumming out beats and rhythms against the wall, much to the annoyance of the other kids. Sometimes he would make someone up, a friend of sorts, someone deep in the abyss of his mind. Sometimes it was a person, sometimes older and sometimes younger. Sometimes it was his age, other times it was his age. Other points, they couldn't even be humans, animals, fairies, ghosts, and robots. No matter who they were, they always liked him, and they all accepted him. He could have all of the conversation that he wanted with them, in the safety of his own mind. And he would say whatever he wanted. They would always agree with him and whatever he said, for he controlled what their reactions were. Maybe his outside world was silent, and he almost never opened his mouth to speak. Whenever he did, his voice would crack horrendously due to lack of use, and the others would laugh at him some more. Deep within his mind, though, things were loud, colorful, and engaging. It was a wonderful delusion that he was able to save himself with when things got lonely. Just like when he was a kid and he imagined building fantastical cities with his Legos, where he could live to be on top of the world. But his delusions could unfortunately only take him so far. After all, he knew that deep down, they didn't exist. After 3 years of being in the orphanage, when he was 13 years old, something strange happened. Something that he never dreamed of. Someone came by, looked at him, and decided that they wanted to adopt him. He never thought that anyone would ever want him. Whenever someone came by to see him, which wasn't often but sometimes happened, he would blatantly ignore them. He would never engage them in conversation, and would turn his head away whenever they asked him a question. He never saw the point in engaging in meaningless conversations when deep down he knew the truth. No one would ever want a weirdo like him. False. In fact, he pulled the same stunt on that man that eventually, for some reason that was too abstracted for him to even begin to comprehend, had decided to adopt him. Well, at least he could leave the orphanage. 3 years was long enough. So, with that man he went. The man's name was Peter, and from what Cody understood, he was a top dog virologist working in a research laboratory at the nearby university. Cody wasn't really sure why Peter felt the need to adopt a 13-year-old, but he guessed that there were bigger things to complain about. He just wanted to profit off the fee labor that Cody could possibly provide, things as being his little lab assistant or whatever. For that was what Cody was expected to do during all of his free time. He supposed that it could have been worse, though, and he worked in the lab with Peter. The more he began to realize just how fascinating viral study was. It was even enough for him to push his longtime favorite imaginary friend away, the ghost of a 15-year-old Civil War soldier who went by the name of 17, and focused solely and completely on the study that was in front of him. It was Also around the time that he recognized another ability that he possessed, hyperfocus. He could work on his viruses for hours. As the years went on, he found his attendance at school to dwindle, and by the time he was 16, he barely attended at all. But that didn't matter, because not only was he slowly becoming an expert on viruses, but he was also learning on how to manipulate them, engineer, mutate, and evolve. In fact, he was currently working on a new strain of the Spanish flu. He had stolen a specimen from Peter and was working on it in secret. But that wasn't his fault. It was Peter's fault for keeping his lab unlocked and allowing him unrestricted access. He should be more careful. Yet, Cody's brief period of happiness would inevitably come to an end at some point. Cody wasn't exactly sure what had possessed Peter to come to this decision, for he never seemed really interested in being a father figure before. But Peter had at one point decided that Cody needed to start attending school more. Additionally, he also seemed to want to instill a sense of responsibility in him, and insisted that he find a part-time job. Cody suspected that it'd be more along the lines of growing truancy issue with the school board more than Peter actually caring about Cody's education. But even if it was, he never admitted to it. Thus, Cody begrudgingly went out in search for a part-time job. In fact, he did his best to fail the interviews on purpose and made himself out to be the world's worst unreadable worker ever. He more than once cited his unwillingness to continuously attend school, and also harped on the fact that he had difficulties working with others and was just awful at communication and teamwork. After all he wanted to do was work on his viruses. He didn't want to work at the register at some crummy corner store where he may be robbed at gunpoint, or cleaning disgusting toilets at the mall because for some reason people lacked human decency, and whenever they had to use a public toilet, miraculously forgot how a toilet even works. Eventually, Peter grew frustrated at the consistent fails and finally got talking to one of his colleagues. As it turned out, another scientist that he had worked with had a wife that owned a wannabe hipster cafe down the street, and that was where Cody was going to work. At first, he had no idea what he was going to make it through these shifts, and found himself once again drawing upon the internal company of his old imaginary friends, with 17, the soldier, on the front lines. Cody rather liked 17. He was funny and often berated and insulted the customers that would be rude to Cody while he served them their extra coffee orders. Cody found himself eternally laughing during his shifts at 17's commentary, and it made his shifts fly by all the more faster. Another day, another dollar. Cody found himself murmuring under his breath, his voice scratchy after the several hours of not using it. In fact, he said this every day he entered the cafe for another shift. He would be expected to use his voice for next several hours after all, and he needed to he found the need to warm it up. Let's see what bullshit we're gonna be dealing with today, 17. Oh, excuse me. 17 agreed, swiping his Civil War era gun over his shoulder and straightening the jacket of his navy blue Union soldier uniform as he fell into step alongside Cody, entering the caf. Standing at the register behind the counter, Cody began his work as he quietly waited on customers, a lot of them bellowing at him to speak up, in that they couldn't hear him, before finally demanding a manager. 17 scoffed. "You all have ears, don't you? Listen up. I can hear him perfectly fine." Cody grinned lightly at 17's offense, but this was the norm. The manager was used to people complaining that they couldn't hear the scratchy brown-haired boy behind the counter. Finally, a group of teenage girls showed up. Maybe they were a year younger than Cody, or maybe even were a year older. He couldn't really tell. Either way, they didn't look like a friendly group. 17 made a show of loading his gun and pointing it at the group, causing Cody to force back a laugh. 5 small cappuccinos, the dark-haired girl with a ponytail ordered rather rudely as she approached the register. "Make them with soy." "Ew." I hope he won't be making them. Another girl commented to her friend. Cody supposed that she was attempting to keep her voice down and maybe wasn't even aware that he could hear her, but he certainly could. Huh, how come? Her friend responded, he'll just mess it up or just make it with whole milk or something. He just looks inept. You think so? Her friend giggled, ensuing in the rest of the girls to start laughing as well. Cody looked over his shoulder in panic. 17 had disappeared. How about you just get that girl over there to make our drinks for us? The ponytail girl demanded. We just want to make sure it's made right. Muttering under his breath, Cody glanced toward his coworker. Yes, she had heard the entire ordeal and was already getting started on their drinks. She was used to this too, even though she never really did anything to defend him. The customer is always right type of mentality, Cody supposed. Laughing, the group of girls made their way over to the next counter in order to wait for their drinks. Taking a shaky breath, Cody could do nothing more but focus his attention to the next customer that was waiting in line, especially now that 17 had ditched him. 17 did that sometimes though, so Cody wasn't really surprised. Wow. The next girl in line commented, glancing at the group of girls with an unimpressed eyes. Imagine being so rude. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. They're ridiculous. Yeah, well. Cody agreed in a strong voice. It happens sometimes. What can I get for you? Macchiato, please. The girl smiled warmly, extending the correct amount of money towards Cody and passing it to him directly. Normally, customers would only slap their money down on the counter, as they didn't wish to come in physical contact with him by handing him the money. This was different. That other girl looks busy with the cappuccinos. I don't mind if you make mine. Aw, now that is that us? That is so cool. That is so cool. Oh my goodness. And then, so this is what the author says. Well, I know what some of you may be thinking. Come on, Hannah. These coincidences are too good to be true. For real, they are way too good to be true. What the hell are these coincidences? That's crazy. So I've read about an hour now. Do I regret it? No, but I might later. I'm not sure. I don't really regret ever reading the X virus in particular for a long period of time, because these stories are just long and I've already accepted my defeat with that. But I'm happy we at least read 3 chapters. I'm so happy. I'm proud of myself. But anyways, what do you guys think will happen next? Did you guys also expect that we literally killed Damien? Bro, I was so happy. I never been happy in my life. I was like, beat that ass, girl. Girl was, oh my god, his face is probably like caved in, bro. He ain't gonna have no more face, no more eyeballs, like nothing. He's dead. He's probably 100% dead from the ass beating that he took to the face. It's scary, but you know, whatever. It is what it is. He deserved it, you know. Hide the body. Whatever. And then also I've noticed these more coincidences where, you know, now I think about it. Why is Cody outside at 11 p.m. at night? Why? He was with Roxy. Remember last time we left off with him and Roxy, he literally shoved her into the thing and just it left at that, and we went back to our POV. How is he outside at night? Did he suspect something, or was he just kind of watching her from afar to see what the hell would happen? Because I think these have like a major time difference, you know what I'm saying? Or at the same time. But I don't know. Maybe it was a coincidence. And maybe the earth, you know, Mother Nature's trying to like, you guys are together. Or, you know, not. I don't know. Because it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But I have a feeling. Also, these coincidences is fucking crazy. This is probably the first. This is not the first time they met. They met officially when he was really young. If you guys don't remember, and he went to the fair secretly, and before he went to the orphanage, and he paid for this strawberry ice cream. He got the strawberry ice cream. He asked someone, like, pushed him, making him fall the ice cream. He got set, started crying. We came over, gave him our mint chocolate chip ice cream. That was his new favorite, and we kind of had to leave because our mom called us. That's the first official time we met him. Then this might be the second official time that we met him. So, oh my goodness, this is fucking amazing, bro. Oh, I'm so excited. If I could read this for 2 hours, but then I don't want to suffer, especially with my tight schedule. So, and I want to get y'all out this video as soon as possible. But anyways, y'all, let me know what you guys think of it so far, because I want to also know what y'all think is gonna happen next and what y'all think so far, and how about these coincidences, because these coincidences are a little bit, you know, a little bit too sus, like for real, they're a little bit too perfect, too perfect. I do understand also, like at some point, like with Jossie, oh my goodness, poor Jossie, I feel so bad for Jossie, and that we also, now that we mention it, that YN likes Jossie and Cody at the same time. I don't know if it's gonna end up with him killing her, or her moving on, or us kind of slowly slipping out of those feelings, or we're just gonna end up with X-Virus and Jossie. We'll see. What do you guys, do y'all ship them? Let me know. Let me know, y'all. Let me know. Anyways, I do hope you guys enjoyed this today, because it's a long one, but it's really nice. It was really tense and emotional, and if you stuck around with me, I'm super proud of you. But if you're really proud of me and want to show your support, y'all better be liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell as hard as you possibly can for more and amazing notifications. Especially if y'all want to show that I did a great job along with you guys. I'm showing y'all did a great job by giving it an imaginary thumbs up right now. Anywho, your girl sadly gotta go. I do hope you guys have an amazing day today, or amazing night. Either one, either way. I do hope you guys have an amazing, brilliant day. But your girl's gotta go. I'll see you on the future of the video. Bye and peace.